Hello dear students, very good afternoon all of you. Here we are going to start the topic instrument used to measure temperature. In the last video we have studied about the temperature and its different units for measuring, okay, and the conversion of temperature from Fahrenheit, Celsius and Kelvin. The three units in which we conversion used that we studied in last video, and I have explained you with an example. Now we are going to use the instrument used to measure temperature. Basically we have to study the instrument which are used for measuring temperature. There are basically on the purpose of measuring temperature of substance, there are two apparatus and two thermometer which is basically used to measure the temperature. Okay, the instrument, first of all understand what is thermometer. The instrument which is used to measure temperature is called as thermometer. Okay, instrument used to measure temperature is called as a thermometer. On the base of purpose of used, they are divided in two types: laboratory thermometer, that is also called mercury thermometer, and clinical thermometer. Laboratory thermometer, which is used in laboratory for the purpose of measuring the temperature of substances like solid, liquid, etc. and room temperature, while clinical thermometer basically used by the doctors to measure the temperature of bodies of animals and any okay body. Basically for measurement of the temperatures of a body is called, in which they are used, called as clinical thermometer. Okay, laboratory thermometer. Now the topic laboratory thermometer which we clearly understand in this video. Okay, we will focus the construction and working of laboratory thermometer. Okay, that is also called mercury thermometer. Okay, first of all, be clear from this diagram. We have to understand the construction. What is the process of making this thermometer? Okay, there is a outer glass tube. Okay, glass tube, a thick glass tube on the outer side, and there is a thin capillary tube inside the tube. Okay, there is a thin capillary tube inside the tube. Okay, in this thin capillary tube mercury is filled. Okay, and this thin capillary tube is thicker in at the one end where the mercury is basically kept. Okay, that is called as mercury bulb. Okay, and the outer glass tube is have a label on it from -10 degree to 110 degree Celsius. Okay, it's measured in Celsius. The temperature measured by laboratory thermometer is in Celsius, so the marking is in Celsius: -10, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 and 90, 100 and 110. Okay, this type of label is made on the glass tube. Inside this glass tube a thin capillary tube. Why it is called as thin capillary tube? Because it is a very thin, as hair like a structure. It is so thin, it is a hair like a structure. That's why it is called as capillary tube. Okay, it has a lower fixed point 0 degree Celsius, while upper fixed point is 100 degree Celsius. Okay, now come to the point. The thermometer used to measure the room temperature or the temperature of solids and liquids in a laboratory is called as laboratory thermometer. Means that laboratory thermometer is a apparatus which is used for measuring the temperature of a substance in the phase of solid or liquids. Okay, that is basically used in laboratory. That's why it is called as laboratory thermometer. Okay, It consists of a very fine glass tube called the capillary tube, having a very small bore. A small bore, understand please, what is a small bore? A small bore means a thin pipe-like structure, its circumference, it means the radius of this bore is very small, that's why it is called as a small bore. Okay, the radius of the tube is very small, this tube is very small, that is called as a small bore. Okay, now there is a very thin glass bulb at one end of the capillary tube. It is filled with mercury. Okay, there is a very thin glass bulb which is filled with mercury. Okay, there is a very thin glass bulb at one end of the capillary tube. It is filled with the mercury. Capillary tube, this is capillary tube, and it's one end the thin bulb in which mercury is filled. Okay, the capillary tube is protected by a thick glass tube called stem. The outer glass tube is called as stem. Okay, at where the marking is made. Okay, stem has graduation usually marked in degrees from -10 degrees Celsius to 110 degrees Celsius. Okay, means this stem has a gradual mark on it. Okay, it is saying that. Okay, the next point, the bulb of this thermometer is placed in the object to measure its temperature. Okay, basically of what things and of what object the temperature has to measure, in that object you have to just put this bulb. Okay, after putting this bulb, mercury will be here, and the temperature taken by the mercury. Okay, the temperature taken by the mercury, and the mercury will expand. The mercury expands and rise up in the capillary tube. This mercury expands and rise up, okay, in the capillary tube. Okay, the level up to which mercury rise gives the temperature of the object in degrees Celsius. Okay, up to which this mercury will rise, that will be the accurate temperature of that body. Okay, this is the simple apparatus which is used in laboratory for measuring the temperature of any solid substances, room temperature, or liquid substances. Basically it is used in laboratory. Okay, in next class we will study the clinical thermometer and the difference between clinical thermometer and laboratory thermometer. Okay, I hope so you have understand this topic. If any problem, please ask during the class. Okay, bye all of you.